Hello, welcome to All About Leadership. All About Leadership. The last time we had a session like this was in June, and my intention was to speak to you on a core aspect of leadership at the beginning of every month. But there have been a lot going on, over the course of the last 3 months. But thank God I'm able to come to you today. It's 1st of October. And by the way, it is Independence Day here, in my country, in Nigeria. And so it got me thinking about the relationship between leadership and independence or dependence, as the case may be. And a very instructive relationship, if I must say, unconventional, and one that I believe that every leader, every emerging leader, every aspiring leader needs to take note of. All right. There are just some principles, that don't find relevance everywhere. And I think the concept of independence is one of such. When you look at independence in relation to this all important, subject of leadership. So today it's about leadership and independence. And by the way, happy 64th independence anniversary to Nigeria. I believe by the grace of God that better days lie ahead. And one of the ways that we're going to see such better days, come alive is by improving on the quality of our leadership. We're doing our best here on this channel, all right, nurturing leaders based on truth. And I'm sure God will help us as well. So today I want to speak directly on, what I have titled Leaders Aren't Independent. Leaders aren't independent. That is the subject matter of our discussion today. The last time, we had the opportunity of a broadcast like this at the beginning of the month was in June, and you may want to check that out. It was Bad Leaders Aren't to Blame. That's, a video that you need to check out, all right? And you'll find it on my channel. Okay. But today, like I said, it's leaders aren't independent. Leaders aren't independent. All right. If you like, there is no independence in the vocabulary of a true leader. All right. What can we learn? Is there any relationship between leadership and independence or dependence? When you look at the concept of independence of nations, all right, what we find is that, a nation, as it were, breaks away from a relationship, good or bad, but I think mostly unacceptable, that existed between two parties, usually two nations. And for the most part, most of that relationship has been characterized by oppression, by exploitation, certainly of the principal, okay, in relation to the servant or the subordinate. And so the quest has been that the servant wants self-determination, wants to take his or her own destiny into, his or her own hands, wants to be able to do his or her own thing. All right. And I guess largely because when the chips are down, all right, it feels oppressed, it feels being cheated, it feels being taken advantage of. And nobody will enjoy that kind of arrangement. So it appears desirable to seek independence, to break away, to want to exercise, absolute control over one's own destiny, as it were. Now, how does that play out when it comes to leadership? How does that play out? Well, I'm afraid to, submit to you and I that it, leadership makes no provision for independence. Leadership, the true sense of leadership, the true concept of leadership, the truth about leadership is that it is a relationship of dependence. The follower depending on the leader, not vice versa. And that dependence never ends. So you ask, does the follower become a slave forever? Does the follower become a follower forever? Does the follower continue to depend on the leader forever? Well, in some case, yes. In some sense, not quite so. All right. There is what you might call freedom. All right. Independence. Freedom, independence. Leaders don't seek independence through leaders. When you know what leadership is about, you don't seek independence and you don't develop dependent leaders. So you are not leaders, don't develop their followers to become independent. And I mean that in this sense, all right, before you take me out of context. This relationship is a relationship where the leader basically gives all of himself, all right, everything that constitutes value in him or her to the follower. Leadership, in the very strict sense, is the leader revealing himself. That is everything that makes him tick, everything that makes him do what he does, accomplish what he accomplishes, makes it available to the follower. So, as it were, the follower learns, receives, hears, sees from the leader, all right, to become a leader himself or herself. And you will think that, yes, that's where it's going to stop. And then the follower can go on, and operate as a leader. Oh, well, that's true. However, the implication of that relationship and the follower becoming a leader is that the follower remains dependent on the leader, even now as a bona fide leader. Why? Dependence, when it comes to leadership, is really about the follower staying true to all that he or she has learned. So you never find a true successor, a true protege, who, because now he or she has become a leader, well trained and capable, goes ahead to start doing his own thing completely different from what he or she learned from the leader. No. If you find a follower who ends up doing that, the person has not been properly trained. All right. If you have been properly trained as a leader, you will go ahead and stick to the principles that you learned from your leader. All right. I love something, that Paul said, I think it's Philippians 4 and verse 9. And he said, look, all the things that you have received, all the things you have heard, all the things that you have seen, all right, the things that you have learned from me, these things do. That's leadership, practically. What you learn, receive, see, what you heard from your leader is what you do, is what you continue to do, is what you continue to do. So, leadership is dependence of the follower on the leader, all right, all through the training period. Now, the dependence at that point is looking up to the leader, to learn from the leader, to receive from the leader, to hear from the leader, to observe what the leader does as a way of learning. All right? Now, when you move from that phase into the phase where now you are well equipped to go and lead yourself, the dependence in that phase, which never ends, is you stay true in the practice of leadership to the things that you learned. So, leadership is about dependence. Leadership is about dependence. When you listen to that parable, where Jesus said, whoever wants to be my disciple has to leave everything, all right, and focus on me, has to take his cross and follow me. And he then said, if you want to build a tower, which is like build yourself into a leader, you have to settle down and count the cost. That cost, a good part of that cost, is the cost of dependence. Because you are going to have to look to the leader, your leader, all through the journey to receive. The leader doesn't receive anything from the follower in reality, except a follower wants to just humble himself or make himself or herself feel good. In that relationship, the leader follower relationship, the dependent party is the follower, and it will remain so forever. That's the truth. It does not mean that he's a slave, all right, because the second part of the dependence, after he or she has become a bona fide leader, is a commitment to keep practicing the things that he or she has learned. Now, that shouldn't be a big deal. All right. That shouldn't be a big deal. Let me show you a perspective that's interesting as well. I call it the leadership showcase. Leadership, what the leader does or is required to do. And you will see that from John 17, verse 2 and 3. The leaders show themselves as products of other leaders. All right? They show themselves as products of other leaders, which is who they are. Every leader is a product of another leader. So when I'm, training my followers, members of my team, to become a leader like me, all right, I'm producing a leader out of them. All right. So when they become leaders, they reflect me who produced them. As they provide leadership to others, they are reflecting who they are and pointing to me who trained them. All right, as this is who trained me. Leadership is about showing yourself to be the product of another leader. Isn't that interesting? That's what it is. That's what true leadership is. And it makes a lot of sense because you and I didn't just become leaders by ourselves. We are products of other leaders. If we are leaders indeed, if we are leaders who should be accorded that respect, then we must acknowledge that we were trained. We must acknowledge that we're products of another leader, and our conduct must be such that points in the direction of the leader who trained us. Somebody said, and I agreed, and I said that, a long time ago. So it's good to see someone who agrees that you shouldn't follow a leader who can point you to the leader that they are following. That also tells you that you don't graduate from the school of leadership. In reality, you never graduate from the school of leadership. You never graduate from the school of leadership. You never graduate from the school of leadership because there are two phases to that school. There is the learning phase where you are taking completely as much as you can, and that's up to you, from the leader. And there is the practicing phase where now you have learned sufficiently from the leader to go ahead and represent and reflect the leader by abiding, by what he taught you, doing what he taught you. Now, if you go ahead and you are doing the things that you learned from me, you haven't quite gained independence. That's not independence. You are operating, all right, anchored to the things you learned from me. And it's not a bad thing by any means. It's wonderful. In fact, that's what guarantees that you will succeed in your own leadership assignment. That's what guarantees. Leadership is a continuum. It's leaders producing leaders. And guess what? A good tree will produce good fruit. All right? Every seed produces after its kind. The leaders I produce have to be after my kind. They're going to share many similarities with me. I shaped them to look like me. Why? Because I can only give what I have. So whatever they get from me and choose to use shapes them to operate like me. Attempting to do differently would be a shame, would be them betraying the training that they have received. All right? So this is what leaders do. This is what leaders do. Isn't it interesting, therefore? It's quite a strange phenomenon. All right? Quite a strange phenomenon that, I mean, you know, a strange phenomenon in the sense that a leader doesn't seek independence. Therefore, when you understand what I have said, you won't seek independence. All right? Because you know that you are going to lead by the things you learned, by the things you received, by the things you saw. All right? That's how you are going to lead because that's how you have been taught. That's the empowerment that you have received. That's the competence and capacity that you have built. If you fail to put it to use, which has been the case, unfortunately, with some people, that will really be a shame. That will be a shame. And there are consequences, by the way. All right? So while we may be celebrating independence at the national level, and stuff like that, note that when it comes to leadership, followers don't celebrate independence because you never graduate from the leadership school. You never outgrow your leader. You never outgrow your leader. So in independence, when it comes to leadership and leadership development, is a strange phenomenon. It's nothing like it. Please don't accommodate it. Don't entertain it. Don't let it derail your journey. There's something that I need to say here. When Moses was a high profile leader, with a larger than life sort of status, but he died, and someone was asked to step into his shoes. And you see that in Joshua chapter 1. And there's something was said to that fellow when he was going to take over. He was given a very vital counsel. He said, he was told, be bold and courageous. He said, make sure that you do not depart to the right or to the left from the things that Moses had written. All right? That is, he was being told, don't come and think that the way to succeed in this leadership role is by beginning to do your own thing. All right? Don't approach this as something, one of those functions where, okay, Moses has done his own, now let me do my own. Your safety, your guarantee of success is actually in staying with what Moses had laid out. Look, he said, don't go to the right of it or to the left. That is, there is zero tolerance for doing something different. It's as strict as that. That's leadership for you. That's leadership. And it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's nothing to be fearful of. It's actually a structure that offers you security. It's a structure that offers you security. Because you know that since Moses succeeded, and this is how he succeeded, this was the way he led, these were the things he observed. All I need to do is to throw myself into it and do exactly what he did, and I will get his results. I will succeed as well. Operating exactly like he operated. It doesn't mean that he's going to lose his identity. All right. He was still Joshua. Everything that he did was written in his name, and Moses was still Moses. Everything that he did was written in his name. So in case some think that, okay, so I'm just going to be operating under the shadow of, my former leader and all of that. No, 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 no. There's scope. There's scope. There's scope. A leader, look at Jesus. Jesus, how many times did he make reference to his father? He was confident, excited to say, I don't do anything by myself. What can I do? He said, what I do is what I learn. John 5 and verse 30, John 5 and verse 19, John 15 and verse 15. Said the things I'm doing are the things that my father taught me. So all of the stuff that he did, training those 12, were things that his father taught him. He didn't do anything that was unique to himself. There were things that he learned. That's how leadership is. And notice what he said to his people. He said, as the Father has sent me, John 20 and verse 21, I believe, even so send I you. That is, the way I am sent, haven't been trained, is the way I am sending you guys as well, haven't trained you. That's leadership. When you graduate from that school, if at all right, you still continue to be referenced to whom you graduated from, to the person that trained you. Leadership, therefore, is a humbling experience because you never outgrow dependence on your leader. You never outgrow dependence, and you are not supposed to. For the sake of yourself, for the sake of the people that are going to come under you to be trained, you should not outgrow, all right, what you have been taught. So this, independence season, I think, has given us a great opportunity to examine the relationship, between leadership and independence, and to draw something that is very crucial that will help leaders all around the world to do leadership right. And that's our commitment here at EMED Leadership Academy. Our commitment is to nurture leaders based on truth. Truth for us is found in the Word of God. And that's what I've laid out for you, today, this Independence Day in Nigeria, and I hope that you have picked a vital insight that will guide you as you seek and take steps to do leadership right. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu. I'm your anchor, and that's all about leadership for October, the October edition. And our focus has been leaders aren't independent. Leaders aren't independent. Once again, happy independence, Nigeria. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. And if you need help with coaching in other areas, look at the link, beneath your screen, and you can reach out, to me, or in the description area, and let's see how we can be of help. All right. It's been a great time. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for listening. At any time that you choose to listen, please go ahead. Feel free to give your feedback. We love to receive comments. And in case you want me to speak on anything in particular, well, I'm yours truly, here to do your bidding. So have a great month. Have a great month. I'll see you again on All About Leadership, examining another critical aspect of leadership on the 1st of November, God willing. God bless you. Bye bye.